Do we want to do the library?
Why not?
Actually, it's not the library, it's the
Municipal.
property committee's report.
Yeah.
Want to start with that?
I don't.
Okay.
I'll take. I don't think I need that.
Yeah, a little bit.
Thank you, Mr. President. What I'd like to do tonight is provide what I hope is the final presentation from the Property Committee in terms of where we are with the Municipal Services Building, update the public in terms of the status, and then presumably we'll have, we already discussed, have a meeting where there'll be public comment, and then the board can determine the direction we proceed. The Property Committee consists of me as chair, Jane Hall, Bill Wexler, and Jim McGarity, and this report tries to incorporate all of our the varying views, as we'll explain. I know that part of this is the library, which is a new sort of component to this plan, and Commissioner Hall just wanted to make a couple comments, then I'll go into the presentation.
Good evening. I just wanted to thank the Board of Commissioners for allowing us to make this presentation tonight. And I'd like to thank the staff at the library and the Board of Library Board that has been very helpful in providing information to us. And a special thank you to Annie, I will mispronounce your name, Lepley, for your hard work this week and trying to get all the information together, and Christine and Donna and Christopher, we really do appreciate it. And I'd like to just take a few moments to say that, you know, this is a wonderful thing for our community, everything that's going on, and the Municipal Service Building Plan is just such a great step in the right direction, and I'm hoping that we can all look at this with an open mind and an open heart and appreciate the work that the Property Committee is trying to do. Thank you.
Thank you. What I first want to do is to provide a little bit of historical context, because there's been sort of some misperception that what we're doing is new or it has come about suddenly. To the contrary, back in February of 2010, the Property Committee issued a report which remains on my website, and I believe on the Township's website, harkening back to the 1988 Comprehensive Plan that noted that many of the township facilities were out of date, that our facilities were designed when the township had a population of 6,000, and that nothing had been done to address the problems. At that time, we commented yet again that the township needed 100% more space to accommodate its employees, as did the police department, and that the structures at the Public Works Yard were as old as 230 years and were considered to be inadequate. We then made short-term recommendations in May of 2010 that included the construction of a municipal services building, which would consolidate all administrative and police functions into one facility rather than having them in disparate locations throughout the township. We also recommended updating the Public Works Yard by constructing a new vehicle maintenance and repair facility. Our final recommendations at that time included the construction of a new public works facility as the number one priority. Number two was to construct a new municipal services building behind the existing police station, and to create, third, a long-term plan for the renovation and/or expansion of the library. We discussed that with the alternatives of either acquiring a new property or repairing, renovating the current facility. Currently, we've already authorized the construction of a new public works facility. That was done through the borrowing and through approval of this board. We've also begun, and that's also part of the borrowing that this board has authorized, the new construction of a new township municipal services building. What has changed and what we've reported on over the last few months is that the condition of the library has deteriorated significantly. And as a result, the Property Committee determined that it would be the responsible thing to do to reevaluate the future of the library in the context of these facilities. We haven't made any recommendations, and even this report tonight will not make specific recommendations, because the Property Committee itself has differing views on these issues. So, with that in mind, bringing into the library The property committee has unanimously agreed that it will require a substantial cost to either repair or replace the facility. The reality is that we can no longer ignore or defer all of the maintenance. There are immediate needs, there are short-term needs, and there are potentially long-term needs. The committee is not unanimous about how to address the situation, and we're therefore presenting it to the board and to the public and to the community for comment, review, and for everyone's input so that then this board can make a recommendation based on all of those factors, including cost, etc. The current library status is that the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems are over 30 years old, they are inefficient, and they are at the end of their useful life. At best, they probably have 1 to 3 years of useful life. Emergency repairs are needed in the basement of the library because of electrical and other systems, as well as some plumbing and groundwater issues. In addition, the facility is not fully compliant with the building code, nor is the building fully ADA compliant. It has space deficiencies, and it has limited parking and no safe drop-off zones at the library. As a result, because of these conditions, the library has spent over $300,000 for maintenance and repairs from 2010 to the present, and it needs $1.5 million in repairs and renovations, including replacement of all the systems, the mechanical, the electrical, and the plumbing systems. These are not things that can be deferred. We heard earlier about kicking the can down the road. We've kicked these cans down the road, and we're at a point where there's no further place to do that. Maintenance and utility costs for the library have totaled close to $600,000 since 2010, and that's approximately 15% or just under 15% of the township's annual appropriation to the library. Those costs would be reduced potentially with either renovations, replacement, or however this board determines. As a result, the options that we believe the property committee believes that the library requires are either to repair and renovate the existing facility or include the library in a proposed municipal services building. Those are the options that we're going to present to you tonight and that the board will address at future meetings. There are advantages to renovations. There's safety, there's functionality, there's further productivity from the staff, there'll be better meeting space. The library has become a communal location. It'll be a better if we renovate, you'll have a better customer experience, and another advantage to the current location is its proximity to the high school and the middle school. Disadvantages of renovation, however, include that the renovations have to address the current building design limitations. It's an older facility. There's only so much that can be done. There are 17 on-site parking spaces and 1 handicap spot, and renovations won't change that. There's an inefficient use of space, and the logistics for the staff to work are difficult, to say the least. Other disadvantages of renovations are, as you could see from the earlier slides, the drain on township funds because of the building age. It's not energy efficient. If we renovate the facility, we will anticipate that it will have to close for approximately 1 year while the renovations are done, and those renovation costs would include roughly $600,000 simply for an ADA compliant elevator, because if we renovate the library, we must bring it up to full ADA compliance. Advantages of a new facility are similar to the ones we've already addressed for a municipal services building. You'll have one set of maintenance, utilities, and systems to maintain. It'll be fully ADA compliant. It would be a state-of-the-art library with some shared public spaces, so we can use certain spaces for multiple uses, not just the library. There would be additional parking. There'd be 322 available spaces to be shared among the township, the stadium, the fields, etc. Its proximity to the police station, other elementary schools, the playing fields, the stadium may also allow for other people to use the library who don't regularly use it, dropping off your kids at a football game or something. You could go to the library, and it would be close to the connector trail that connects the YMCA to the stadium and the Paddock Farm area, so that you add another sort of level of community access. Disadvantages of the new location would be additional traffic pressures on the intersection of Minoa and Darby Road, the need to allocate the 322 parking spaces for all of those varying uses, and to figure out how we do that because different uses are needed at different times. And it would be 3 blocks further from the high school and the middle school, and those students, approximately 50 to 75 high school and middle school students, do use the library every day. Cost of renovations. The facility costs, the construction costs, et cetera, would be approximately $5.5 million. That does not include the costs that are associated with closing the library for a year, moving all of the material out for that period of time, and the impact on the community. So we're looking at a base recommended cost, regardless, of roughly $5.5 million for the current library. Where we stand with the facilities, et cetera, are that if we build as proposed a municipal services building that solely includes the administration and police department, it would be approximately 38,000 square feet, and at a cost based on construction management costs, it would be a cost of approximately $11,323,500. If the new facility would include the library, it would be a 61,000 square foot facility at a cost of approximately $18,491,000. That includes an approximately 24,000 square foot library, which is roughly comparable to the size of the current facility. It is not as large as the library has presented to us and to others. And the cost up front is approximately $1.6 million more than the cost of renovation. So there are additional costs. There are additional cost offsets, however, that have to be factored in. One is that the library has applied, and our state representative and our soon-to-be additional state representative have applied for grants that would be for the facility. We've also had the library appraised, and the appraisal from a reputable commercial appraiser came in at $1.2 million. However, that appraisal included what the appraiser called exceptional assumptions at that value, and we don't believe that the value to sell that property would be as great. However, selling the library would mean that that building would likely be converted into tax-generating property, which creates an additional revenue stream toward the facility. And finally, the library has funds, and we've estimated that at approximately $500,000, not including fundraising campaigns or other campaigns, that would offset some of the additional costs of putting in the new facility.
I'm sorry, Dan, could you go back to that
Sure.
slide? I just have one question.
Absolutely.
Before we go through it. The $500,000 to $1 million, we wouldn't get that if we were renovating?
Grants, I don't believe we would, or there'd be a question. We're more likely to get it in a new facility because a new facility will have green components. It'll either be LEED certified or it'll be something comparable, similar to the grants we got at the rec center. And we have more alternatives with a new facility. There's very little you can do. You can do a little with energy efficiency, but a new facility will give us some additional benefits.
Okay.
So that's part of that component there.
Okay.
To clarify some things that have been said and discussed, this is the library, this is the municipal services building plot plan that we've shown previously. Important things to understand are that if you look in the middle, you'll see the reconfiguration of parking spaces. The plan envisions the library and the municipal services building, or simply the municipal services building. It doesn't change either way, with the sort of maroon footprint on the bottom. It does not impact any fields whatsoever. This plan was designed, we had GS Architects prepare this for the township, and it specifically excluded any impact whatsoever on fields. We still value fields, and we're not going to change that. The facility, this is more of a close-up of it, so you get a sense of it. It would also have a lower level for the police so that they can have their secure entrance and exit and be able to handle the affairs that are non-public in a secure location. The facility would essentially be constructed, if it included the library, based on this plan with one minor change. The bottom in the reddish orange would be the police, the lower part being in a secure lower level, not for the public. The first floor, which is actually the second on this plan, is the public area for both the police, for where they have to work with the public, and for township functions, publicly accessible. The third level, the goldish level with the light blue, would be combined library and township facilities, and then the upper level, which, because of reducing sort of the size, would be parallel in size and shape to the three lower levels, would be exclusively the library. And that would be the plan on how this would be constructed. So it's essentially the same plan that we showed earlier for a 2.5 level structure, adding the level and a half for the library. And this brings it to you a little more clearly, but it shows where the library would be. There'd be a central core for public access, etc. This simply shows the final allocation of the space, but essentially it's the library getting approximately the 24,000 square feet that I mentioned earlier. And these space allocations were done and revised approximately 3 months ago by architects to make certain that the space allocated for the police, for the township, were based on current and projectable future needs, because that has changed over time with efficiency and technology. The township needs less space. The police have needed a little bit more, and this addresses that to assure that we're building, or we're recommending the construction of a proper size facility, not something that's going to be so large that we wouldn't need the space, or a facility that wouldn't be able to accommodate reasonable growth, although there's no projection of growth in employees, as we've been downsizing pretty much every year, at least since I've been on the board. That, in a nutshell, is the current state as the property committee sees it. There's benefits, there's disadvantages of both of the ways of going, either renovating the library or maintaining it. But historically, we know that since 1988, the boards of commissioners have known that these are issues both with the Township Building, the police station, the public works yard, and the library, and other boards have really not addressed that. We're at a situation now where the facilities are at such a state, and you can see, and we can show you the presentations that we did in 2010 and 2011, that we're in a serious situation, and if we don't address these problems now, we're going to be in an emergent situation soon, and that'll be at a much higher cost. We're fortunate that borrowing costs are low, the construction costs remain low, and that facilitates us doing some things now that we wouldn't be able to do if construction costs are higher or if borrowing costs are higher. This is also part of the plan that we have projected in terms of borrowing in stages, and to do that, to make this a more balanced growth plan. I'll take some questions. I don't know how much you want to do, Mr. President, because we want to have a separate meeting on this, and I don't want to turn this into a full other meeting.
Commissioner McGarry would like to speak on the property, as for the property committee.
Okay, Jim McGarry, I'm part of the property committee, and when you hear all about the property committee, it makes it sound like we're all in agreement with everything going on. Well, I am one that is not in agreement with what is going on. Number one, I think on the 25th, I can show you where some of the things that were shown here are just not what's there. And I will do that then, not tonight. Number two, about the field space, they might be right about the field space. We don't know that. We'll figure that out when we figure the parking spaces out. Number three, what they don't realize is two factors here. The traffic at Darby and Manila Road will not be able to take it, just like at the bubblegum factory or the Y, whatever you want to call it up there. It's really horrendous up there, and it's getting worse because each day more people are joining that Y, which is good for the Y, and I'm glad they're doing that. But I don't need the problem up there and the problem down at Darby and Manila Road. Number two, I don't think the taxpayers of this township can afford $18 million. And number three, the property committee in the beginning of all this, when we discussed all these things, we talked about we talked about the public works yard, it needed a building down there. B was the police station was the second priority, and C was the township was the third priority. That was it, no more. Now they've come into a number four situation here where it's going to be $8-9 million more dollars. So I'll let the people decide. I hope the people that live down on Cathmere and Strathmere Road and Mill Road, around the library and all in the 7th Ward, come out to this meeting on the 25th at what time, Mario, 7:30?
7:30.
7:30, right here in this room, and I hope they come out and let their voices be heard. I thank you.
Okay.
Mr. President, may I just address one issue?
Sure, go ahead.
In anticipation of this meeting, and based on our prior borrowing history, I had asked the Township Finance Director to provide estimates of the cost. Because obviously, as we have said from the start, cost is a factor in all of these issues. And I just wanted to address, Ms. Cuthbertson, if we were to simply build the Township Building, the Combined Municipal Services Building without the library, I know you've prepared at my request an estimate of what the